Hello everybody and welcome along to this Eigenharp seminar on Thursday the 3rd of February. Wow, it's February already. Cool. So today we are looking at the new routing matrix. So for this seminar you will need the latest unstable version of Eigenharp, which is 1.3.11. So if you haven't downloaded that already and installed it, if you do it now, it should be done pretty quickly, so you can follow along with what we're doing today. Also, do let us know today if we're too loud or if you can't hear us or not. We've maybe tried to fiddle around with the volumes and stuff a bit, so hopefully with the mics, so hopefully you'll be able to hear us a bit better. So I think that's that for today. As per usual, if you have any questions, put them just in chat as we go along, if it's about what we're talking about. If it's not, then try and save it towards the end if it's completely off topic. Yeah, that's probably that. Again, there's about a 6-second delay, so if you do put a question in, it might take a few seconds for us to get it. Cool.
Okay, hello. So today I want to talk through the new routing matrix that Gert's built. So we've got this new way of connecting all the controllers, the strip controller, the breath controller, and the movement of the keys or the pedals if you're using like Pro Base Station. You'll recognise this from the old routing matrix, so the way we used to use it with audio unit and VST plugins, but there's a whole lot more options now. It's a lot more flexible. So I'm going to basically just go through all of the features of the routing matrix, explain what everything does. So I'll start with that. So what there is if I've loaded 1.3.11. I've got factory alpha 1 loaded. At the top there's this window menu, an Eigenharp. If I zoom in a bit, you can see. So the alpha and the tower have both got two MIDI outputs, and for each MIDI output there's a MIDI converter. So MIDI converter 1 is for MIDI output 1, 2 is for MIDI output 2. So this MIDI converter 1 here, I'm going to click on this, and we get this routing matrix come up. Now this is where we can route any of the Eigenharp controllers to basically any kind of MIDI signal you can think of. Along the top here, just as you'll recognise from the audio unit and VST routing matrix, we've got the pressure, roll, yaw, so they're the movement of the keys. We've got the breath, strip position, both the normal relative mode and the absolute mode, if we scroll along. We've also got the absolute strip position 2, and we've got the pedals 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is for the alpha. Okay, now I've got this MIDI CC messages tab selected. So what this means now is down the left-hand side, we've got all the MIDI CCs 0 to 127 listed. And so this is where we can connect the two together in the same way that you would have connected controllers to parameters within audio unit or VST plugins. Okay, so first of all, I'll start off by just doing something simple. First of all, we're going to connect the strip controller to a MIDI CC. So I've got MIDI output 1 selected. So I hold down the mode key, choose MIDI output 1. And sorry, let me just sort my cables. And MIDI output 1 is set to MIDI channel 1. So if I choose the MIDI out 1 advanced controls up the top here, let go, and then you can probably just about see, but there's the 16 orange lights here. These represent the 16 different MIDI channels. So I've selected the top left one here, or next to the top left, which is MIDI channel 1. Okay, so now I've got MIDI output 1 selected, and I've got MIDI channel 1 selected for that. I've got main stage open as well. I'm going to use main stage, but it could be any kind of, well, it could be an external MIDI instrument or synthesizer or sound module, or it could be like Ableton or main stage or Logic or Cubase. But I've got main stage open, and what I've got here is a channel in main stage. I'm using the ES2 synthesizer just for now, and that's set to receive from Eigenlabs 1. So Eigenlabs 1 is the information coming out of MIDI output 1 on the alpha, and I've got it set to receive on channel 1 only. Okay, so just quickly, if I play a couple of notes, you can see.
Oh, sorry, Sean, here we go. There you go.
Was that? Oh yeah, you can see basically I'm playing on MIDI output 1 and there's noise coming out. So that's great. Okay, so yeah, first thing to do, let's set up a simple connection. So what we do is I'm going to connect the strip controller to the modulation wheel. So I look along the top, find strip position 1, so that's the strip controller nearest my right hand. And I want to connect that to modulation wheel, which is CC1. So I just find where strip position column meets the modulation wheel CC1 row. So that is here, and I click in the box. And we get this set of options come up. Okay, so if I move that out of the way, we can see what's going on. Okay, so you can see there's a green box now where the two strip position meets modulation wheel, and it's got a 1 in it, and it's green. Okay, so this is the most basic connection I can make. Now if I turn to, I've got this MIDI monitor application I've used before. It just tells me what MIDI is going on my computer. So now if I zoom in on that, you can see that if I move my hand along the strip control, there's nothing coming up at all. Oh, let me just choose the... Okay, it wasn't looking at the Eigenharp things. Okay, so now if I move my hand along the strip controller, it says from Eigenharp 1, control, channel 1, that data, that means CC1, and you can see the value of CC1 changing as I move my hand up and down. So, can you get it to both mode?
Yeah.
Okay. So how I have it at the moment, so I've got this green box ticked with a value of 1. This is the most basic connections. This means I can move my strip controller in this kind of downwards direction, the positive direction, from 0 to 127 in MIDI, and it covers the full range of the strip controller. So I can go all the way along, and 127 is the very top, very bottom end, this end of the strip controller. Okay.
So is data now being properly thinned down so you don't need to send values for every MIDI channel into main stage?
Yeah. So there's a whole load of options for that, but at the moment it's just sending out the strip controller on whichever MIDI channel I've got selected. So you remember I went to MIDI output 1 and chose MIDI channel 1. So this strip controller at the moment is sending out on MIDI channel 1 at the moment, but there's loads of options for this. I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, so it's all kind of been sorted out. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these options now in this parameter window. So basically every box. So this, by box I mean like a connection or a routing, has its own little parameter window. So I just click on the one that I've already made, and it comes up with its own personal little option window. So the first thing at the top you can see is the scale factor. So at the moment it's set to 1. So this means that, so I'm going in a positive direction, and the strip controller covers the entire 0 to 127 range from there to there. Now let's look what happens if I move the scale factor to 2. So what we're basically doing is multiplying the values coming out of the strip controller by 2, or 2.1. Okay, so now if we go back to the MIDI monitor, keep it into screen mode. So go MIDI monitor, and then I move my hand along. You can see it reaches 127, but I've still got half of the strip controller to go before it gets. So what it's done basically is multiplied the values by 2. So now I'm only using half the range of the strip controller. So effectively, it's kind of, you can think of it like either multiplying the values by 2, or it's kind of changing the CC quicker. So like I'm moving my hand along here at the same pace, but the value is going up and up twice as fast as it was before. If I set the scale factor to 4, so now I'm multiplying all the values by 4. Okay, so I put that on 4, and now in theory I should only need to use 1/4 of the strip controller range, and it will have reached 127. So if I move slowly along there, watch that until it gets to, there you go, it's about 127 there, and I've only got this far down the strip controller. So this scale factor is kind of multiplying the values by whatever the scale factor is, or I kind of think of it as if it's moving the value quicker, so it can use a smaller part of the strip controller to get the same range. Okay, so next to the scale factor there's this invert button. I'll come back to that in just a second. First so this is the difficult bit. I've been worrying about explaining this a little bit, but this is the bounds in percent sections. This is a really powerful flexible section of this this property window. So I'm going to try and explain that. So I think the best way to start is if I put the base at 50%, I'll put the high at 50%, I'll put the low at 50%. Okay, so let me explain what this means. So, well, approximately anyway. So I've got, let's zoom in a bit. Can you get that full screen actually? So, okay, so low, let me put that, approximately 50, base approximately 50, and high, well, 50. Okay, so what this means, I'll start with the base first of all. So the base is the resting position. So this means when I first touch the strip controller, or wherever I first start from, this is the value that's kind of sent out by default, it's resting position. So base at 50 means the base is 50% of the full possible scale. So the full possible scale at the moment, I have my scale factor to 1. In MIDI, this is in the MIDI world at the moment, it's slightly different for audio units and other things, but in MIDI, the full possible range is 127. So I've put my base at 50%, and that means the base is going to be half of 127, 50%. So that's 64. So quickly look at the MIDI monitor. If I touch the strip controller, you can see when I first touch it, it's hanging around at about, well, 65, because I had it at 61%, 65. So that's when I first touched the strip controller, and then I can move up from there, or now I can move down from there. Before I couldn't move down because the base was 0. Obviously, MIDI can't go below 0. So now I've got 2 directions of movement. I've got the positive movement if I put my finger on the strip controller and move upwards. I've got the negative movement if I put my finger on the strip controller and move downwards. Okay, so that's the base so far. So that's simple enough at the moment. So the base is percentage of the full possible value, which at the moment is 127 steps. Okay, now the high and the low parameters in this bound section. Okay, so the high, this works as well on the full range of the full possible range. So the full possible range is 127 again. Okay, so I've set the high to 50%. Now why did I do that? Because basically the base is already at 50%. So that's at 64. Now the high, this value, if it was set at the high, so I want the positive range from the base upwards to be basically. Let me try and figure out how to say this. Okay, so the high, the full possible range could be 127. So what that would mean is I would start at 64. If I put this at 100%, this high thing, can you see that? So I put high at 100%. So this means now I touch my finger on here, that's 64, and now I've got a possible 127 steps up here. So what's going to happen is 64 plus 127 is actually about 190. So what's going to happen at some point, I'm going to move my hand along the strip controller, and it's going to reach 127 before I get to the end. It's going to carry on going. So if we're looking at my, I don't know, can you go full screen on that? Mm-hmm. Well, basically, I've got to about here, and you can see that it's going to stop moving now because I've reached 127. I can move back down, and after a little while, it go down. So this is why I've got the to start with. I've set the high at 50%. Because now I've started at 64, my base is at 64, and I can move up 50%, which will take me to 127, because I've already started off at 50% base. 50% extra is going to take me to 127.